You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tian. In addition to this show, I write for the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV. And Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, preseason coming up in just a couple of days. I cannot wait for that. But first, how about a little word from our sponsor?
Well, I can't wait for that, and I can't also wait to talk about our sponsor, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. For direct links to specific Packers game tickets, go to packerstalk.com/tickets or browse their website at theticketking.com. If you're watching with us on YouTube, thank you. We love to have you. You can see the links right there on your screen, packerstalk.com/tickets or theticketking.com. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We're here. We're everywhere. We're on podcasts. We're on all your favorite podcasting platforms. But yeah, Gil, the preseason, we had family night just a few days ago. Now we're getting closer to the real deal, and it's starting to feel like football again.
It is, and it's fantastic to see that, and just, seeing family night was exciting. The players are on the field, but it still was just a practice in a much nicer setting in front of so many people. But right now, the good news is preseason football going to start on Saturday, and we're just ramping it up really right now.
Yeah, and before we get to that too, I wanted to express some thoughts on what I saw from family night, where luckily it was streamed online, the Packers website doing that, so getting a little bit more with the times as time goes on. My impression from family night, Gil, just real quick, I think Jordan Love got better. I think Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, they've gotten better. Javon Bullard also looks like he may be the best safety and one of the top steals in the draft this year, because that dude, I think, is going to be the starter next to Xavier McKinney. I know it's been a really good competition in camp at safety for that other starting safety job, but Javon Bullard looks like a guy who's ready to play.
He does, and that was great. And Evan Williams has looked very good in camp and at family night as well. It's not like you could say, oh, yeah, Evan Williams terrible, Javon Bullard great. They both played well.
Yeah.
But, the thing I love about Bullard also, I get the feeling he may play in the slot a little bit. He's going to be starting opposite McKinney a little bit. I get the feeling there's going to be a variety of ways that Jeff Hafley is going to look to use Javon Bullard, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think overall the defense was a little bit ahead of the offense for family night. I got to give shout-outs to Rashawn Gary. He just, what was it, like the first or second play, he just blew by his block. Would have crushed the quarterback if he was allowed to actually do that. But he has had a very dominant camp, and that carried over into family night as well. And, shout outs to a couple of receivers further down the depth chart, by the way, who I think just sort of had, some good moments. And look, these are guys that, may not make the team when all is said and done, but I think just had their moments. Dimitri Stanley made a couple of nice catches, and that was good to see. And then, at tight end, Joel Wilson had, I think, 3 or 4 catches and looked pretty good as well. Again, you take all that with a grain of salt. He's still a long shot to make the team, but want to give these guys shout-outs for what they did accomplish on family night.
Yeah, and it was a good time to see where what gets me most excited about preseason and training camp every year is seeing the guys who the Packers drafted, who they drafted in April, and just to see them playing NFL football, some semblance of NFL football where we can actually see it on a TV screen is something. And again, Javon Bullard was outstanding to me, where the guy closes on the football super fast. That's something that we haven't really had at safety for quite some time. I feel like rookie year Darnell Savage was kind of like that, but we haven't really had anything like that recently. But also, watching Jordan Morgan when he was in there at right guard and he was primarily playing with the ones. And Jordan Morgan, he had some one-on-ones with Kenny Clark and was holding his own pretty well. And Kenny Clark is a pretty damn good football player. We've talked about numerous times. He got that third contract a few weeks ago, rightfully so, deservedly so, deserved that third contract with the Packers. He's probably going to be excelling in this defense where he's probably going to get a lot more one-on-one matchups. And Jordan Morgan looks like a kid where it's like, yeah, I can see why the Packers drafted this kid in round one. The kicking competition obviously was something. We wanted to see how the kickers looked between Greg Joseph and Anders Carlson. I don't think anyone got a leg up, pun intended. I don't think anyone got a leg up on the competition on Saturday, though.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the prettiest thing as far as I think Joseph has been a little bit more accurate in camp, but at family night, I think both of them did just fine. And I think maybe, one of the highlights of family night was having that kid catch 3 punt returns in a row and holding on to all of those footballs.
Oh, yeah. That was incredible. And it's like, how did Amari Rodgers have a job when there's a kid in Waupun, Wisconsin, who can catch 3 balls from the jugs machine at one time? There's not many adults who can catch 1 ball from the jugs machine when they're camped out underneath like that. That was impressive. That kid's got to get a contract. As soon as someone drops a punt in a preseason game, that kid's getting a call from someone.
Got to graduate high school first, but yeah, I like what I saw.
I think that probably violates some kind of child labor laws, maybe. So, who knows? But hey, it's like mom and dad be like, "Oh, you want to go make an NFL minimum salary for us? Great! Like that's one less mouth to feed." But yeah, overall, family night, it's not what we're gonna be. We shouldn't get used to seeing what we saw on family night on Saturday. And remember, this was a practice. This was a practice that was in front of thousands and thousands of fans and tons of fireworks later on. But it's a good preview to the start of the season, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, step 1 in this journey, and now step 2 becomes the preseason, which starts on Saturday. And now, only 3 games. It's going to go by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and you just hope right now with preseason that we've already seen around the league. We've heard some serious injuries going on around the league, and the Packers, they've had few of their own injuries that they're kind of dealing with right now. I had just mentioned Jordan Morgan. He left practice earlier this week with a shoulder injury. Matt LaFleur noted it appears to be minor, but he could be out for a week or so, but it shouldn't affect his status for week 1 in Brazil. Christian Watson took a hit to the knee at practice on Wednesday. He was down for a bit, said he's sore, has a bruise, but he's going to be okay. He actually did practice on Thursday. And then Jordan Love at practice on Thursday. Someone violated the rule of hitting the guy with the red jersey. He was on the ground. He was holding the back of his left leg. Luckily, he did finish practice. He was with the trainer for a little bit. But there's just too many scares right now, Gil, where fortunately, it doesn't sound like anything super serious where guys are going to be out for a long time. But you just hope that this isn't leading to something really bad in a few weeks. Knock on wood that nothing happens, but that's my worry right now as a Packer fan. Obviously, football's a violent game; it can happen at any time.
Injuries are unfortunately built into the equation. It's not if, it's when and how severe. And again, you just got to hope that the Packers continue to be fortunate and avoid major injuries. There are some, minor nagging injuries out there, but overall, knock on wood, so far this team has avoided the big stuff.
Yeah, and you're looking around the league where Rondale Moore, who's with the Atlanta Falcons, he got carted off at practice. He's out for the season with a knee injury. Josh Downs, who's supposed to be a big contributor for the Indianapolis Colts. Packers are going to see the Colts in week 2. He's probably going to miss that game against the Packers at their home opener in week 2 at Lambeau Field. You just hope nothing serious comes about for the Packers going ahead. Some other injury news and notes. Wide receiver Jayden Reed, he missed practice on Wednesday with a calf, but he did return on Thursday. Linebacker Tyron Hopper had an ankle injury that he missed practice with on Thursday. And then Carrington Valentine dealing with a hamstring. Edgerrin Cooper still dealing with a groin and hip. Donovan Jennings dealing with a knee injury. All are still out right now. Probably won't play in that preseason game on Saturday in Cleveland. But good news, though. Tight end Tucker Kraft, he's off the player unable to perform list. He's no longer a pup. He's a big dog, and he's back on the field with the Packers.
And so is Zach Tom, and that's
too.
good, too. Both of them getting back into Now they're bringing them along slowly, and I like that. I
Which
would
they
rather
should.
be.
Which they
Yeah,
should.
absolutely. You want to be more conservative. Look, if this Sunday was week 1 and this game counted, I'm sure both of them would probably be out there, and they'd be preparing them a little bit differently as far as, how much they practice and what they do. But for preseason week 1, neither one of them expected to play. I'm fine with that. Bring them along slowly, get them back into the swing of things. But again, everything gearing up toward week 1 in Brazil, which is now less than a month away.
And I was just talking about how I always want to see the rookies play. I always want to see them play. It's a bummer. We're not going to see Jordan Morgan on Saturday. We're probably not going to see Edrin Cooper on Saturday. We're probably not going to see Tyron Hopper on Saturday. Donovan Jennings he was the bonus baby of the undrafted rookie free agent class. That's not helping him. And there's a lot of openings on that offensive line. There's probably, you got to think there's maybe 6 guys who are locked into jobs on the offensive line right now for the Green Bay Packers. And there's a few spots that are up for grabs. And Donovan Jennings is not helping himself right now. It's a bummer. You hope he gets better. Also, it wasn't an injury, but take a quick moment to offer our condolences to Josh Myers. We learned that he was out for personal reasons the last few weeks at times. His father passed away a few days ago. It was just announced, a former Kentucky Wildcat. Really hard. Obviously, got to be a very hard time for Josh Myers, a guy who's battling for a starting job, for a new contract. And to lose your father during training camp, it can't be easy. So I just want to offer my best wishes to Josh Myers, too.
Likewise, a very tough time, and hopefully, his teammates and his friends and family are giving him some support as he goes through this. And kudos to the Packers also for giving him the time away when he asked for it. And there's no easy way, even when it's expected. There's no easy way to deal with that.
Yeah, and it's back to business though, and I bet the best thing for Josh Myers would be to play football, just to get his mind off of it, to take all that energy out. And he's got something to play for, obviously. He's playing for his dad, and his dad's looking down. So he's got a job to do, and we got a job to do as well. With the Packers, though, obviously, we got the preseason coming up, but they also have a new addition on the roster. They've added another kicker. They made a bevy of roster moves this past week, but it was headlined by signing a third kicker, Australian-born kicker Alex Hale, who played college football at Oklahoma State. He was just under 80% for his career in college, 27-34 as a senior last season down in Stillwater. His father, Glenn, was a former semi-pro rugby player in Australia. Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph, it's been a tight competition in camp so far. You can't really say who's got the leg up, honestly, in this competition. What do you make of the Packers rotating another kicker in? They had James Turner in for a bit. He's not with the team now, but they still have a third kicker. What do you make of this, Gil? Is this kind of troubling that they're just not really set at kicker right now?
It's a little bit troubling. I mean, look, we still haven't had the first preseason game yet, so I'm not panicked by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't view this as a vote of confidence in either Greg Joseph or Anders Carlson. And, we heard Brian Gutekunst during OTAs basically say, well, these are the 3 guys we got. We could bring in 3 completely different guys before this is all. He's doing that. I mean, what is this, the 5th kicker they've had in either OTAs or training camp? You had Podlesny, you have Turner. Now,
and that's not even mentioning the guys who have come in for tryouts, too.
Right. That's exactly it. So it is a revolving door right now, and to me, it says that even though both Joseph and Carlson were fairly accurate during most of training camp so far, I don't think anyone has distanced themselves from the pack, and I don't think the team is overly confident in either one of them right now.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I also think this is kind of Brian Gutekunst's DNA as a GM, where he wants competition. He wants as much competition as possible. And look what he does every offseason, where his first big offseason that he was in charge, where they needed a boost at edge rusher. What does he do? He goes to get Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, a free agency. He drafts Rashawn Gary in round 1. He bolsters the offensive line with signing Billy Turner and also drafting Elton Jenkins pretty high. When he needed corners in his first draft, he drafted Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson right away, brought Tremont Williams back as well. This past year, inside linebacker, Devondre Campbell, he's let go to say just to save some money. And Edrin Cooper, he drafts him in round 2, drafts Tyron Hopper in round 3. Just more competition there. The safety position, he signed Xavier McKinney. He loads up at safety. This is just kind of what Brian Gutekunst does. And I think he's just obviously he wants as much competition as possible at positions that are not solidified. And I really think that's just what a good general manager does. He said, I remember in one of his first press conferences when he was hired as the Packers general manager, is that they're not going to leave any stone unturned. He doesn't do that as a general manager. The guy works, and he's going to do what he can to make sure that he finds someone who could do the job. And he's not afraid to hurt feelings, and he's not afraid to make dreams come true too. So I think this is more so just an indictment on how Brian Gutekunst is as a general manager, where he's not satisfied, and I don't think the Packers are satisfied either, and he's doing all he can to see who the best option will be at that spot this year.
And I think that's generally wise. The only thing is about kickers, you're only keeping one, and there's only so many practice reps to go around. So keeping 3 for a long period of time, you're giving each one of them less opportunities to kick. At a certain point, and I would think it would probably be after preseason game 2, you want to get it down to 2 kickers, just so they have a chance to get their own rhythm going, so that the basic, run from long snapper to holder to kicker is smooth and everybody is comfortable with what they need to do and getting their rhythm down. The longer you have more than 2 kickers in camp, the more I begin to get a little nervous.
And this is something too where, hey, for those watching us on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you may be. Let us know your thoughts on this kicking competition. Obviously, there's an area where this is a big reason why the Packers didn't play for a Super Bowl last year. They didn't play for an NFC championship last year because of the kicking spot. The big thing, obviously, it's like, yeah, there's only so many reps to go around. I will say, coming up in the preseason, Gil, if they have a 4th and 1, 4th and inches, and they're in field goal range, don't even bother going for it on offense. Save that for the regular season. Save that for practices, and just kick. See what you have in your kickers, and just you got to get them as many reps as possible. And I feel like that's going to help alleviate a lot of potential issues down the road, and really figure out what they're going to do at that position moving forward.
Yeah, you want to see these guys get chances under game conditions when it's in a stadium with the wind, with opposing players trying to block the thing at as close to game speed as you can get. Because look, preseason is one level, regular season is a little faster and a little more intense. Postseason is the next level after that. So, this will be the highest level this year that we've seen thus far, and you want to give these guys as many chances as you can.
And obviously, we're talking about the preseason opener coming up in Cleveland on Saturday. And Matt LaFleur said starters will play. And it's kind of, there's no right or wrong to this, where Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid always has his starters playing the preseason. The Kansas City Chiefs have won the last 2 Super Bowls. But when the Packers have played starters in the preseason, they've had some serious injuries. And they're not the only team that's had a serious injury from a meaningless game. It sounds like Jordan Love's going to play. But, Gil, the question is that we have, obviously, that we should talk about is how long should the starters play in that preseason opener? A game that essentially means nothing, but could essentially help you down the road and get ready for the week 1 opener in Brazil in a few weeks.
Yeah, and, you go back to the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, they opened the season against the Saints down in Jacksonville. That year, Aaron Rodgers did not play 1 snap in the preseason. Yeah. Most of the starters did not play a snap, and the team just was not ready to play in week 1. The year after that, they opened against the Vikings. They were not really ready to play that game either. And again, you had your more veterans on that team. They were not playing much, if at all, in the preseason. And, again, just not ready. And I think across the NFL right now, because of the new collective bargaining agreement, they limit the 2-a-days. They limit the preseason is down from 4 games to 3. We're seeing less. Teams are just less ready. September kind of a lot of games in September look like preseason games used to look,
Yeah.
except that your starters are playing the whole game because the tackling isn't there, the cohesion isn't there, the players just, they're just not as ready as they used to be. And I understand the player safety angle of it. I'm not disregarding that or saying to heck with it. No, by no means. But at the same time, if you give your starters a couple of reps, I'd be shocked if Jordan Love plays more than 2 or 3 series, and I don't want him to be out there that long. But, like I said, 3 years ago, they got killed in week 1. 2 years ago, beat badly in week 1. Last season, with a young team and an inexperienced team, when everybody played in the postseason, they came out, took care of business against the Bears, put up 38 points in that game. Okay, yeah, one was a pick 6 by Quay Walker, but even so. Yeah, okay, so 31 points, right? Okay. Yeah. You got to find that happy medium, but what you don't want to have happen is what happened to Jordy Nelson back in, 2015, where he goes, runs a pattern, no contact involved in the play, turns around, makes the catch, and snaps his Achilles and is lost for the season. So you want to find that sweet spot where the guys get ready for the season, but you minimize the risk of injury. You can't do both, but you got to find that happy medium.
Yeah, and with that too, where I wonder, you got to also consider the playing surfaces that they're playing on too. When Jordy had that injury, it was in Pittsburgh, where the field isn't really the best, kept in the best shape. It's at Lambeau Field is just it's a cut above a lot of NFL stadiums in terms of a playing surface and everything like that. And so you always have to consider that. Cleveland is usually kind of in the middle. I feel like they're more towards the lower end in terms of field quality, which can kind of concern me. They're going to be playing in Denver in a couple of weeks, where they typically take pretty good care of that. And then obviously they're going to finish the preseason at Lambeau. For me though, it's my take on this is I think if you're good to go, if you're not dinged up or anything like that, you should play. You're better off just trying to figure stuff out. And if guys get hurt, then you have more time to adjust to and have a plan for what to do without player A or player B moving forward. And I think that's it when you have Andy Reid, who's been doing it for so long with the Eagles and now with the Chiefs, where he has played his starters in the preseason. It's probably a matter of I want to get these guys in game shape. I want to get things figured out with my top guys. And if guys get hurt along the way, or we lose guys to season-ending injuries, it's more time for us to adjust and to recalibrate and figure out an issue and figure out how to address that going forward. And with the Packers, though, it's like a guy like Josh Jacobs, where it's uncertain if he's going to play. Don't play him. Don't bother to play him. Jordan Love, if his knee is bothering him like it was today when he got hit a little bit, I don't know if I'd play him. Zach Tom obviously is not going to play on Saturday. Matt LaFleur said that. Good, fine. Don't play him. He's going to be one of your starting 5 offensive linemen. So if there's guys who are dealing with injuries where it's like, hey, you could probably go if it's a regular season game, but a pointless game probably shouldn't go, then that's where I stand. I can't imagine though Love plays and the offensive line starters play for more than 1 quarter.
Yeah, no, I think 2-3 series tops, depending on how long a series is and how long the offense and defense are on the field. But so how long would you play like a Kenny Clark on Saturday?
2 series max. Him, Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary, Jair, 2 series max. And if those guys are dinged up at all, don't even suit them up. Don't even bother. It's just like
all right.
Rashawn Gary. I feel like Rashawn Gary is going to be ready and Kenny Clark's going to be ready. McKinney, maybe there's some communication stuff that they can figure out with the new defense and him on the back end and being a new guy. But those guys where it's like, yeah, just don't play them that much. That's just the way I see it. And obviously, it kind of contradicts what Andy Reid does in Kansas City.
Well, a little bit.
Like yeah,
but what about a guy like Quay Walker, kind of in the middle, established starter, but still looking for that next level?
I'd play him a little more than a quarter. I'd play him a little because he's not one of your best defensive players, but he's a guy who needs some work. He needs some reps, and especially with a new linebacker crew and a new defense, him being in the middle, the guys who communicate, the main communicators on that side of the ball, feel like they need to play a little more. And the thing is, Jordan Love is on an offense where that whole offense is pretty much back from last year. There's some kinks to work out. There's some new wrinkles they probably put in. but I feel like the offense is going to be okay. The defense probably needs as many reps as possible.
Well, and then you're also learning a whole new defensive system under Jeff Hafley. So everybody is really making that adjustment in one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's all a working learning process. And but it's game one of 20 total games, including the preseason and including the regular season. Don't go crazy. Don't go balls to the walls in game one. Gil, where are you at with those guys on the defensive side of the ball? How long do you want to see those defensive studs play?
Maybe a quarter of the studs, like your Kenny Clarks, maybe a series or two. Guys like Quay Walker or Xavier McKinney, maybe a quarter and a half.
Yeah.
Something in that range. And again, it'll depend. If the offense goes on a 9-minute drive and the defense is sitting, maybe you extend it a little. If it goes the other way and the defense is on the field for 7 or 8 minutes at a stretch, maybe you cut it down. But you got to sort of use your judgment as to how things are unfolding on the field.
Hey, I'll say this. When the best players play, it's more fun to watch. But it's also fun to watch those roster hopefuls and those guys, the new guys get a little bit of run and see who – is there going to be another Emmanuel Wilson coming up? Is there going to be another Jake Kumro coming up in the preseason? Where that's always fun to monitor as well. So we'll see. Matt LaFleur, he's got a plan. I trust the guys in charge. I trust they'll do what's best for the Green Bay Packers. Gil, before we wrap up with some trivia – what articles do you have coming up online for Cheesehead TV and the Packers Post?
Well, for Cheesehead TV, I sort of addressed what we were just talking about. How long, if at all, should Matt LaFleur be playing his starters in preseason, especially in preseason week 1, especially after that injury scare for Jordan Love just yesterday or today, rather. So got to sort of take all of that into consideration. And then for Packers Post, I recently did an article updating all the different position battles that, when we started training camp, we weren't sure. Well, here we are in week 3. Where do those position battles stand right now?
Gil, keep those finger muscles strong. Stretch them out a little bit because you're going to be quite busy the next few weeks with all the position battles going on in training camp for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Plenty of curls. Just plenty of curls. Just like if you're watching on YouTube, you can just kind of see where it's like and you got to think pinky, every single phalange. Just work them all. They could all use it.
Okay,
they're 1 of 5. They're 1 of 5 on each hand. They're very important. Everyone serves a purpose. Seinfeld taught us that too. Anyways, Gil, you ready? You ready for some trivia?
Yes, sir. Let's go for it.
All right. Well, we spoke briefly about a new addition to the Packers kicking unit as the team signed former Oklahoma State Cowboy Alex Hale to the 90-man roster. Hale was born in Gosford, New South Wales, Australia. Gil, the Packers have never had an Australian-born player suit up for a regular season and or a postseason game in their team's history. True or false?
I believe that's false.
So it is actually true. They have never had an Australian-born player suit up for the Packers. Melbourne, Victoria, Australian-born punter Chris Bryan was with the Packers during the 2010 offseason, as well as training camp before he was released prior to the start of the 2010 season. And that was also the same season where the Packers won Super Bowl 45 and Tim Mastay beat Bryan out for the punter spot, which is a good decision by the Packers because Mastay, I'd say, in my opinion, he was the MVP of that NFC Championship game in Chicago later that year. He essentially made future Pro Football Hall of Famer Devin Hester a total non-factor with his punts in the bitter cold in Chicago. Bryant would play 4 games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that season. But yeah, Tim Mastay, so Chris Bryan was very close. He was with them that whole offseason, but never actually suited up. But you want some bonus trivia, actually, Gil?
Let's go for it.
All right. Well, cool. Hale is an Oklahoma State University alum. This is Alex Hale, again, the kicker that the Packers just signed a few days ago. Can you name the last 2 OK State alumni to start a game for the Packers?
Wow. How far back are we going?
Not far. Within the last decade.
Within the last decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm drawing a blank right now.
That's all right. Well, 1 on offense, 1 on defense. We have offensive guard Lane Taylor and cornerback Lindsey Pipkins. Taylor,
I remember him.
Taylor had a nice career for the Packers after the team signed him as an undrafted rookie free agent in 2013, spending 8 years with the Packers. He was the Packers' full-time starting left guard from 2016 through 2018 before second-round rookie and current Packers left guard Elton Jenkins replaced him at left guard in 2019. Pipkins was an undrafted rookie signing by the Packers in 2017. He made the team out of training camp, started one game at cornerback for the Packers that season. Later on, he was traded prior to the start of the 2018 season to the Indianapolis Colts for linebacker Antonio Morrison. And don't forget, Gil, the Packers could have had probably the most legendary Oklahoma State player ever, Barry Sanders, but they drafted Tony Mandarich from Michigan State. The Packers also, they could have drafted future Pro Football Hall of Famers Deion Sanders or Derek Thomas, but they went with Big Tony from Michigan State, and Barry Sanders could have been a Packer, most legendary Oklahoma State Cowboy ever.
Yeah, I remember that draft only too well. And I remember being so thrilled because Mandarich, by every account, was rated the highest graded player in that draft. And he was the only one of the top 5 who did not end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The only pick ahead of him,
Troy Aikman.
Yep. So, yeah. And
it's funny. I remember that. I remember that draft, even though that was before I was a zygote, you know? So it's like, so it was quite a long time. And hey, I appreciate, by the way, I got to give a shout out to Chris watching us on YouTube. He guessed Lane Taylor for one of the guys. Lindsey Pipkins, that was a tough one. I didn't even know Lindsey Pipkins went to Oklahoma State. I had to look it up. It's research. I'm always thinking. I'm always trying to cook up new trivia for you, Gil. You're hard to stump.
Well, you did it this week, so good job. Good job.
Nailed it.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this week. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Gil Packers and at GB Packers Sean to stay up to date on all things Packers or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now on YouTube as well. And you can watch us live when we do go live. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Till next time, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.